Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Your English podcast, the best way to improve your English. Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're really getting into it, not just about learning English, but the actual daily habits, the things that, make the real difference.
Exactly. And we want to go a bit deeper than just listing things. We'll try to unpack why these habits are so essential for really truly learning English in a way that sticks. We're talking about building routines that work.
Right. And for this discussion, we've pulled together some, pretty useful ideas. We're looking at principles from 7 habits that will help you stop wasting time, and seeing how they apply directly to building a strong English learning practice. Plus, our own takes on daily habits.
Yeah, the goal is really to boil it down, find the core ideas, and give you things you can actually do starting, maybe even today.
What I find interesting is how these ideas about habits, they're kind of universal, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's language learning or anything else, managing your time, your energy, it's fundamental. So this deep dive is really about showing you how to connect those dots for your English journey.
Okay, let's dive in then. First up, introduction to effective habits and English learning. So how do we set the scene here?
Well, I think we should start by acknowledging something a lot of us feel, just, being pulled in so many directions. Life's busy.
Totally.
And time just feels like it's constantly slipping away, right? Especially when you're trying to fit in something demanding, like learning a language.
It really does. And you hear stats like the average person spending years on their phone. It just shows you what we're up against, so many distractions.
Exactly. Things that can easily push aside your plans to study English.
So if you're listening and feeling like, yeah, my time isn't really translating into English progress, then stick around. This is for you.
Definitely. And the thing is, how do you actually find that time? Squeeze it in. For me, I've found that even small, consistent bits of practice, if you're smart about it, add up big time. Right. It's about weaving it into your day, not making it feel like this huge extra chore.
And I think approaching it calmly is key. You don't need these massive overnight changes that you can't keep up.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about those small tweaks, things you can actually sustain. Just being more conscious, really, about where your time goes, especially for something valuable like learning English.
Yeah, so what we're trying to give you here is a kind of framework. Some structure, some discipline, but adaptable, for your routine.
Exploring those habits that help you take control and actually make steady progress. That's the goal.
So drawing from those 7 habits ideas, we'll touch on things like understanding distractions, managing your energy for studying.
Creating those boundaries, which is huge.
Super important. And active breaks, minimizing digital noise. Oh, and the 10-minute rule, which I love.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Plus, how to actually stick with new habits, and how to prioritize what you're learning.
And zooming out a bit, the main message really is improving your English. It's totally doable. It's not magic. Anyone can do it by building these effective habits. It's about learning smarter, not just harder.
Okay, let's shift gears. Point 2. Identifying time-wasting factors in language learning. What are some common ways we, waste time when trying to learn English?
Oh, there are quite a few. One big one, funny enough, is having too many choices.
Interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. There are endless apps, websites, books, courses. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, decision fatigue.
Exactly. You can spend so much time just looking for the perfect resource that you never actually start learning. It leads to inaction, really.
That makes total sense. Like standing in front of a giant buffet and not knowing what to pick, so you just don't eat.
Pretty much. And then there's multitasking. We all try to do it, right? Squeeze in some learning while watching TV or commuting.
Guilty as charged. Does it actually work, though?
Honestly, not very effectively for deep learning. Trying to learn grammar while, say, watching a movie just splits your focus.
Right.
You're not fully concentrating on either thing, so your English progress is way slower than if you just gave it your full attention, even for a shorter time. You're just diluting your effort.
And what about, like, work culture? How does that impact finding time for study?
That's a big one, too. Especially now with so much remote work. The lines between work and personal life get really blurry.
Oh, yeah. Your living room becomes your office.
Exactly. So it's much harder to mentally switch off from work mode and get into, English learning mode.
Look like you're always kind of on.
Yeah.
And then just the stress of choosing what to study. All those options we mentioned, that can lead to just chaotic learning, right? Jumping around.
Definitely. It adds another layer of pressure, and you end up maybe doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, with no real structure.
I've definitely felt that way myself sometimes. Like, I spent time, but did I actually learn anything concrete? It's hard to say.
Yeah, that feeling of time just sort of evaporating without real results.
And we can't forget the digital stuff, the constant pings, notifications.
Oh, the notifications. They're brutal for concentration, aren't they? Just when you're getting into the flow of an exercise, ping, and your focus is gone.
Completely. It makes focus practice incredibly difficult.
So a lot of this ineffective learning really boils down to, not managing our attention and energy properly. We're trying to do too much at once, or we haven't figured out how to direct our focus effectively for language learning.
So the first step is really being honest with ourselves. Looking at our day and seeing what's actually getting in the way.
Exactly. You need to identify your specific time wasters. What are the things that pull you away from learning?
Because once you know the causes,
then you can start tackling them. Recognizing those time sinks is absolutely step one. It's foundational.
All right, moving to point 3. Optimizing energy levels for effective study. How do our energy levels, going up and down through the day, affect how well we learn?
It's huge, actually. Our bodies have these natural rhythms, right? Peaks and dips in energy. And learning to work with those rhythms instead of fighting them can make a massive difference to your study productivity.
Makes sense. You can't be switched on 100% all the time.
Uh-huh.
So when are we typically most alert?
Generally speaking, for most people, energy and focus tend to be higher in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
After you've slept, your mind is often clearer, more receptive.
So that might be the prime time for the tough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like grammar.
Potentially, yes. Trying to wrestle with complicated grammar rules late at night when you're tired, probably not the best use of your time.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
Staring blankly at a page.
Exactly. Fatigue really impacts your concentration and your ability to retain information. It's so important to respect your body's limits. Don't force it when you're exhausted. It just leads to frustration.
So how can we practically schedule things around this?
Well, think about matching the task to your energy. If you're sharpest in the morning, maybe that's when you tackle new vocabulary or practice speaking or do complex reading. Then, maybe later in the day, when your energy is a bit lower, you could do things like reviewing flashcards, listening practice that's less demanding, or organizing your notes. Things that are still useful but require less intense focus.
That actually aligns with what I found works for me. I try to do the harder thinking stuff earlier and save review or later tasks for the evening. It feels much more effective.
And don't forget breaks. Taking short, regular breaks during your study sessions is crucial.
Right, not just powering through for hours.
No. Those little breaks help you reset, maintain focus, and avoid burnout. Think of them as cognitive breathers.
Absolutely. And it's not just about when you study, but also looking after your overall energy, right? Like exercise, sleep, food.
Oh, definitely. All those things feed into your baseline energy levels. Good sleep, regular movement, decent nutrition, they all support sustained energy, which directly helps your learning.
So the core advice is structure your study to avoid burning out. Listen to your body, work with your energy flow.
Precisely. Aligning your learning with your energy cycles helps you get the most out of your study time. It's about maximizing efficiency.
Okay, next point. Creating boundaries for focused English practice. This feels like a really big challenge today, doesn't it?
It really does. Like we mentioned, work, life, study time, it all tends to bleed together, especially working from home.
Yeah, that feeling of always being reachable, always on.
It makes it so hard to mentally switch gears and just focus on learning. That's why setting clear boundaries is absolutely critical.
So what are some practical things we can do? How do we build these walls, so to speak?
Well, one really effective thing is to actually schedule specific, non-negotiable time slots for English practice.
Like putting it in your calendar.
Exactly. Treat it like an important appointment. Block out that time and really try to protect it.
Makes sense. And during that time, minimize the potential interruptions.
Absolutely. Close unnecessary tabs on your computer, especially work email or social media. Silence your phone notifications. Basically, create a bubble of focus around your study time.
I find having a little ritual helps too, like changing location, maybe making a cup of tea. Signals, okay, it's study time now.
That's a great idea. Creating a designated study space, even if it's just a specific chair or corner of a room, can be really powerful. It acts as a mental cue.
Right, like this is my English zone.
Exactly. When you're there, your brain knows it's time to focus on English. Using different spaces or times for work versus study really helps reinforce that mental separation.
So it's about creating these deliberate cues, both mental and physical.
Yes. And when you have these boundaries, your learning time feels more structured. You know when you're going to study, so you can mentally prepare and stop other things from creeping in.
So really planning your day with those specific English slots, giving them real priority.
That's the key. To sum it up, establishing clear boundaries helps protect your time and your mental energy specifically for learning English. It creates that dedicated space you need.
Point 5 is about incorporating active recovery for better learning. This sounds interesting. More than just taking a break. What's active recovery?
Yeah, it's a bit more structured than just stopping. The idea is to intentionally build different kinds of blocks into your daytime for focused learning, time for recovery, and time for decompression, all aimed at making your learning more effective overall.
Okay, let's unpack those. What does recovery mean in this context?
Recovery means taking genuinely restful breaks. Not just switching tasks, but doing something that doesn't require much mental effort. Giving your brain a proper chance to recharge.
So not scrolling through Instagram during my study break.
Ideally, no. Think more along the lines of maybe some light stretching, a few minutes of quiet meditation, or just closing your eyes and breathing deeply. Things that actually calm the mind.
Okay, I see. Restorative activities and then active learning blocks are just study time.
Exactly. That's your dedicated time for actually engaging with English grammar, vocab, practice, whatever it is.
I know I sometimes try to just push through for ages, but My focus definitely drops off. Are these active breaks good for that?
Absolutely. Short active recovery breaks during longer study sessions are incredibly helpful. It's usually much better to study in focused bursts with short rests in between, rather than one long, draining marathon session.
Right. Quality over quantity. And the third block was decompression. What's that?
Decompression is more about winding down after study, especially maybe in the evening. The idea is to avoid screens and stimulating activities right after intense learning.
Ah, okay. So what kinds of things?
Maybe reading a physical book, could be in English, could be your native language meditation, a calm walk, listening to relaxing music, a non-digital hobby. Anything that helps your brain switch off from learning mode and start processing.
So it gives your brain space to consolidate what you've learned.
Precisely. Proper recovery and decompression are vital for learning productivity. If your brain gets enough downtime to rest and process, you'll be much sharper and more receptive during your next active learning block.
So we should consciously try to schedule these different blocks. Learn, recover, decompress based on our energy and needs.
Yes, and experiment. See what works for you. Maybe use timers to remind yourself to take those recovery breaks during study.
Got it. So balancing study, active breaks, and decompression stops you wasting time due to just being mentally fried. It keeps things fresh.
Exactly. It helps maintain focus and prevents that mental fatigue from setting in.
Okay, number 6. Minimizing digital distractions during study. The digital battle. This feels constant, doesn't it?
It really does. Our devices are designed to grab our attention, which makes focusing on one thing, like learning English, pretty tough.
So how does digital minimalism help here? Is it about throwing away our phones?
No, not necessarily. It's more about being intentional. Using technology purposefully rather than letting it control you. Reducing the clutter of digital distractions during your dedicated study time.
Okay, so being more selective.
Right. Like maybe identify just 2 or 3 key apps or websites you genuinely use for English learning. And then during study time, make a real effort to ignore everything else.
And the notifications. You got to tackle those, right?
Oh, absolutely. Turning off non-essential notifications is probably one of the single biggest things you can do. Those little pings and banners are designed to pull you away. They completely break your concentration.
Yeah, they really do. What else? I know I'm tempted to just check my phone.
A simple but powerful trick: charge your phone in another room while you study.
Ooh, a bold move.
It sounds drastic, but physical separation works. If it's not right there, the urge to grab it lessens significantly. Out of sight, out of mind. Somewhat.
Makes sense. Logically, at least.
Yeah.
What about the physical space?
That matters too. Creating a calm, organized study area helps. Good lighting, comfy chair, maybe tidy up a bit. Fewer external things vying for your attention.
So it's about controlling the environment, both digital and physical, to support focus. How does cutting these distractions actually boost learning?
Well, it allows for deeper concentration. You can actually immerse yourself in the language for sustained periods without your attention constantly being fragmented. This leads to better understanding, better attention, just more effective learning overall.
Right. You're not constantly task switching in your head.
Exactly. So it's worth consciously monitoring your screen time, especially during study periods.
Maybe even try some no gadget practice.
That's a great exercise. Like dedicate 20 minutes in the morning just to reading a physical book or using paper flashcards. No screens involved. It can be really focusing.
And maybe schedule times to check messages rather than reacting instantly?
Yes, that's a core idea. taking control, deciding when you interact with your devices, not the other way around. It helps you use your study time much more effectively by cutting out those constant interruptions.
Okay, habit 7. Utilizing the 10-minute rule to overcome procrastination. I think everyone knows that feeling of putting things off, especially something effortful like language study. How does this rule work?
It's beautifully simple, actually. The idea is, if you're dreading starting an English task, just commit to doing it for only 10 minutes.
Just 10 minutes. This sounds doable.
Exactly. Often the biggest hurdle is just starting, that initial inertia. So telling yourself, okay, just 10 minutes of vocabulary, or just 10 minutes on this grammar point, lowers that barrier significantly.
It makes it feel less daunting. Does psychology play into this? I think I heard of something called the Zeigarnik effect.
Yes, that's relevant. The Zeigarnik effect basically says our brains tend to remember unfinished tasks better. So even if you only do 10 minutes, the task is now open in your mind, making it easier to come back to later.
Interesting. So you're using that tendency to your advantage. Get the ball rolling, create momentum.
Precisely. Just set a timer for 10 minutes and start that task you've been avoiding, even if you feel zero motivation. You might be surprised.
What happens after the 10 minutes?
Often, once you've started, you find it's not so bad and you feel more willing to continue. The hardest part was getting going.
But what if I still really don't want to continue after 10 minutes?
That's okay, too. You still did 10 minutes more than you would have otherwise. You broke through the procrastination barrier. But honestly, more often than not, you'll find you just keep going.
That's encouraging. So it's a win either way.
Exactly. It's a great way to kind of trick yourself into starting. And it helps if you know what the next small step is after those 10 minutes, so you can transition smoothly if you decide to continue.
I can totally see how that works. I know once I actually start something I've been putting off, it often feels much easier to keep going.
That's the 10-minute rule in action. A great little tool for kicking procrastination to the curb and just starting your English practice.
Point 8. Sticking with new English learning habits. This is often the hard part, right? We make great plans, but actually doing them consistently.
Absolutely. That's where the real challenge lies long term. Good intentions are one thing, but building a habit that sticks takes ongoing effort and, well, discipline.
So what helps us stay on track? How do we make these habits last?
One really useful strategy is the 2-day rule.
Okay, what's that?
The idea is simple. It's okay to miss one day of study. Life happens. Sometimes you need a break. But make it a firm rule. Never miss 2 days in a row.
I like that. It builds in some flexibility, but stops you from completely falling off the wagon.
Exactly. It prevents one missed day from turning into a week, then a month. It keeps the momentum going, even with minor bumps. It balances discipline with being realistic.
Yeah, because beating yourself up over one missed day isn't helpful either.
No, it's counterproductive. You need consistency, but also a bit of self-compassion.
What about tracking? Does seeing your progress help?
Oh, definitely. Tracking can be super motivating, whether it's putting stickers on a calendar, using a habit app, or just making a note in a journal each time you study.
Seeing that chain build up.
Exactly. It gives you a visual sense of accomplishment and reinforces the habit, makes it feel more real.
I know for me, setting reminders or having a quick daily check-in helps keep things front of mind. Like a little accountability partner in my phone.
Those kinds of prompts are great. The main thing is finding ways to keep showing up. Consistency, even if it's not perfect every single day, is what really solidifies those beneficial English learning habits over time.
Okay, our final point, number 9. prioritizing and planning your English learning. English is huge. Resources are endless.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel lost. How do we prioritize and make a sensible plan?
That feeling of overwhelm is so common. A really good approach is to deliberately pick just one, maybe two key learning goals for the day.
Instead of trying to do everything at once.
Exactly. Focus your energy. What's the most important thing for you to work on today? What will give you the biggest bang for your buck right now?
So be specific, not just study English, but maybe learn 5 new phrasal verbs and practice using them.
Precisely. Clear, specific goals make your study time much more targeted and effective. Another really useful technique is reverse planning.
Reverse planning, how does that work?
You start with your end goal. Let's say you want to understand a specific English podcast series. Then you work backwards. What skills do you need for that? Maybe better listening comprehension overall, specific vocabulary related to the podcast's topic, familiarity with the speaker's accents.
Right, breaking it down.
Yes. You break the big goal into smaller, manageable steps. What do you need to achieve by the end of this study session to move towards that bigger goal? Then you outline the specific tasks to get there.
So it provides a clear path and stops you feeling overwhelmed by the sheer size of the end goal.
Exactly. It gives you structure and direction. It ensures you're spending your valuable study time on activities that directly contribute to what you actually want to achieve in English.
So it really comes down to being intentional, having clarity, and knowing where you're headed with your learning.
Absolutely. That structured planning and clear prioritizing, they're key to avoiding that lost at sea feeling and making sure your study time is truly effective.
And hey, if you're finding this deep dive useful and you want more tips for your English learning, do hit that subscribe button. We're always exploring new ways to help you improve.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you too. What was your biggest takeaway today? Which of these habits feels like it could make a difference for you? Let us know in the comments.
And maybe a final thought to chew on. Consider how picking just one of these strategies and really committing to it could start to change your English learning experience. What's one small change you could make starting today?
Question.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope these ideas give you some practical tools to boost your confidence and fluency in English.